Shalom. All praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High. Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all your sincere camp. And this is your brother Bawan back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Racha Kodash. All praises and glory is due. And I have to apologize to you, Akiamen, because I should have done this video earlier. But the thing is that I was not in the mood to do this video. I was trying to, I wasn't the spirit was just wasn't on me to do this video because now I'm tired of these atheists. When I'm tired of these atheists. I'm tired of these unbelievers. I'm tired of these Christians. Right? They come up, they twist and break down and basically just preach and push a false doctrine concerning the scriptures, right? And then even when they do these their little debates, they always do it in bad faith because rather than for the sake of edifying and for the sake of allowing the gospel to be preached, it's all for the sake of getting one up on the guy that they are debating against, trying to look smarter than the guy that they are debating against. This is why the apostles and the apostles on down said just straight up give that decree that nobody in Great Millstone should be debating because hey, if the spirit is really on you, you won't even be able to debate because in your mind, what you'll be thinking is, oh, you're bringing out the word, you're bringing out this truth, you're going into the scriptures and you're bringing everything out. But the person that debates you will be like, oh, no, 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 don't go into the scriptures. But you are talking about the scriptures, you're talking about the Bible, right? But they will say, oh, no, no, wait, don't go into the scriptures, They will start making all these stupid, dumbass arguments, trying to change the subject, doing everything they can to get that gotcha moment, right? Trying to change the subject, trying to twist the words, trying to twist your words, right? Trying to get you to say things that or admit things that you never or admit things that you never actually believed in or say or agree to statements that you've never actually made because that's ultimately what all these debates are. It's all about that gotcha moment, being able to say, "Ha, I intellectually berated this individual." While we that are in this truth, our only concern is preaching the gospel of the Most High Yahweh Basham Yahweh and allowing it to be spread and bring out this truth and edifying the body. And that's why we don't do debates because it is a fruitless endeavor and it does nothing for this truth, right? Well, really, really does, really, Slakia, rather, what I should say is that it does nothing to edify the body because at the end of the day, these debates are making the truth to be more widespread, right? Because as it is written, and let's get that precept, and it's not as a function of the debates themselves, but rather as a function of this being the truth. After all, it's not written, you can do nothing against the truth, but only for it. So it doesn't matter, so it doesn't matter how the truth is being brought out, right? And I say that, you know, then I say that just as a statement. I'm still going to say more on that, right? But basically, what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter how this truth is being brought out, as long as the truth is brought out, it will ultimately allow the truth to grow. But at the end of the day, there is an order in this truth, and there is a way in which the truth is supposed to be prophesied, it's supposed to be preached, it's supposed to be spread throughout the whole earth, that the Most High Yahweh Sham Yahweh has ordained. Because understand something, right? Even just a random, just talking about, even just random Tweedomites talking about the Hebrew Israelites is enough to grow. It is enough to grow this truth because if the elect hear that, they'll be like, "Oh, Hebrew Israelites," the spirit will jump on them and they'll be curious about it and go into try to do a little bit more research and finally get the information, right? So it doesn't matter who is talking about. He's talking about this truth. It will ultimately raise the stock of this truth and increase and increase and do more for this truth. But at the end of the day, right, the way in which this truth is going out throughout the four corners of the earth and the way in which people are even able to hear of this truth directly is through the manner of the Lord, through prophesying. Now, Second Esdras 13, verse 8. For we can do nothing against the truth but for the truth. And now to this right here. And this is the second video I'm doing on this individual, Alex O'Connor. Okay. And basically, what he's doing is that he's going around debating all these quote unquote Christian, I don't even know what they are, apologists, Christian pastors, Christian leaders, I don't really know, but I do know that they are trying to defend Christianity. And what he does is that he claims that there are some contradictions within the scriptures, right? And that's the thing that annoys me about the whole contradiction thing that you see a lot of these anti-Christians, right? All the people that are against the scriptures do. Whenever they bring out a contradiction, what they usually do is they'll find a grammatical error in the scriptures, right? And claim that that is a contradiction. Kind of like the thing about how thou shalt not abhor and Edomites. They say that that's a contradiction in our doctrine. But we've already brought it out that it was a clerical error, okay? And rather, the word that should be there is actually thou shalt not abhor an Assyrian. Because the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai changeth not. And it's not a God that will say on one page, not abhor an Edomite, and then say in the next chapter, in the book of Malachi, I hated Esau. That's not how the scriptures work, but rather it's a clerical error from the translation. Because if you go into the Hebrew, right, you see that the word there is as Assyria, Ashur, okay? And that is something that a lot of these people that claim to have found a contradiction in the scriptures never do. Because if you go into the original text, right, if you go into the Hebrew, you go into the Greek, like for example, I did 2 videos going into that. You had this one guy that was saying that, oh, in the scriptures where it says that the woman should submit to her husband, that the word that is there is not the word for submit in the Greek, right? And he was trying to frame it as though that word submit wasn't there, that it was actually put in by um, the translators in order to push a doctrine of submission, which of course is false because that word submit was 100 was actually there. You can go into my previous videos and see that. And another other one I did where the guy claimed that, like I said, translation errors. Okay, basically what the guy claimed is that, where in the book of Kings and in the book of Chronicles, because a lot of the events that happened in the book of Kings were also written up in the book of Chronicles, and sometimes in even more detail. So one of the wars that that were going on during that time in the book of Kings, it wrote that in the war there were infantrymen, right? And in the book of Chronicles, it wrote that they were foot soldiers, and basically it was saying that, oh, that was a contradiction, But if you go into the Hebrew, it's the same word, which is basically just the soldier. And this is how the contradiction that these unbelievers usually push operates, right? It's based on a false understanding of history, of the prophecies, and most importantly of the scriptures. This is why I don't like doing these videos, because when you hear demons, okay, devils butchering the scriptures, and you just feel like you know what I'm talking about, man. It's one of the most infuriating things out there. So without further ado, let me just play the video. I'm just going to play the first part, and you can listen to what this demon himself has to say.
That the gospel writers had written what you just said. Imagine in the actual text, one of them said he was 33 when he died because of the number 3 and its significance. Correct. And another said that he was 34 because of the number 4 and its significance. That would be a contradiction. And not, and in that instance, not just a historical contradiction, but a spiritual and theological one too.
Actually, no, it actually wouldn't.
Oh, see, come on.
It wouldn't. I'll tell you why.
You don't.
And here is making this isn't even an important argument, because basically what is basically and basically this is probably from a video that was it's probably from another video, a longer video, right? So the argument that he's making here is that the individual that he's arguing against, I think his name is Dinesh, right? He said that something about we probably said that the doctrine that you have where the Lord died when the way he was 33, when the scriptures never gives you an actual age of our Lord Yahweh Shai. Okay, so when you hear that our Lord Yahweh Shai that died at 33, there is nowhere in the scriptures that says that our Lord Yahweh Shai was 30 and 3 years, right, when he died. But rather that's a doctrine that came from Wakitaki plantation Christianity. And that's why you usually hear things like, oh, Aloja Hawashai died at 33 AD, right? And allegedly he was born 0 AD. Because understand something, okay? There is no record of when Aloja Hawashai was born, the time period, or even when he died. Or rather, I should say that there is no record of the time period or what date it was, because there is record of Aloja Hawashai's birth and death, which is of course in the scriptures. And if you're out here thinking that the scriptures isn't the historical book, right? Or isn't a book that should be used for, in a book that should be considered a historical text, right? Then that means that, the writings of Homer, okay, the Iliad, which are things that should be, which are things that are considered historical texts. The Epic of Gilgamesh, right? Those also should be taken out. But you see, when it comes to the scriptures, you see that people have a bias against the words of the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And no marvel, because this is a wicked kingdom that we're living in right now, where the word of the Most High Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is hated. But let's continue playing. And that first part wasn't really the part I wanted to go into, because they're just going into some of these Christianism ideologies, right? This the doctrine of Christianity, nothing based in the scriptures, okay? So you can clearly see already that these atheists, okay, these unbelievers, because it's not just the atheists, it's also the Kemet niggers as well, right? All the people that are against the scriptures, the anti-Christians, or rather I should say the scripture group of people, the anti-Hamashiakian, okay, that's the best word to use, are coming out, are basically grasping at straws, looking for any little, any little jot or title in the scripture that they can use in order to claim that, oh, the Bible is false because this isn't true. The Bible is false because it says this right here. Just in order to try to discredit the scriptures, but you cannot do that. Okay, there is no discrediting of the scriptures. Let's play the video.
I think that's a contradiction.
No, it's not a contradiction at all, because the gospel writers are constantly
Contradicting each other.
drawing, not contradicting each other. If they were constantly
And it's funny that he says that even though none of the gospel writers actually do contradict each other. You have Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which were all scribes for different apostles, and the apostle John that wrote his own gospel by himself, because he could scribe by himself and also wrote the book of Revelations. Well, of course, this is what these anti-Hamashiakian will do. They will claim that there is a contradiction in the scriptures, but when it's time to actually go and bring out this contradiction, you now find out that it is the most stupid excuse for a contradiction ever. Either it's a grammatical error or a mistake in translation. That is clearly a mistake in translation, right? But because they are grasping at straws, they are so desperate to find something against the scriptures, they will run with it. Let's keep playing.
contradicting each other, you wouldn't have spent half an hour on a single event that, frankly, I haven't even heard of. In fact, no one's ever heard of. I've never ever heard anyone discuss this in any context. So you fish out
which event?
This prophecy about Hosea. I'll go back and look at all this. But what I'm trying to get at is, if you had a plethora of contradictions, you wouldn't be spending the entire debate on one that I'm sure no one in the audience has heard of either.
Hold on.
But okay, you've heard of it. Probably because you've been listening to his YouTube channel, right?
You don't think that this is a highly discussed point of contention in the Gospels, the flight to Egypt and its contradiction with
the flight to Egypt. Look, the flight to Egypt is an important event in the Gospel. I'm not saying.
Dinesh, also, you said, why could you only bring up this one example? Take your pick. The date of Jesus' crucifixion, whether they're to take a staff or not to take a staff, the dating.
And he said the date of Yahushua crucifixion, which was during which the exact date was never given. It was during the Passover. What is this guy even talking about, Seth? You have to be anything. What's this guy even talking about, Seth? The exact date was never given. Okay, it was during. But you know what? He's debating against a Christian. So that is, we don't use the same timeline that the Christians use. That's not the part of our doctrine. It's probably talking about how they say that the date of our Lord Yahushua's crucifixion is 33 AD or 34 AD. And that's a contradiction because, he will probably, that probably isn't part in this video.
Jesus flipping the tables at the temple, Mary Magdalene and what she says at the tomb, when the temple curtain rips, in the Gospel of Luke, it says that.
Yeah, this is the one I'm talking about. This is the one that you're talking about, right? So you have different accounts in the Gospel of, I believe it's both Matthew and Mark. It says that let me let him say it.
This happens before Jesus' death, and in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark it says that it happens afterwards. We can.
And that's basically that was one of his first quote unquote contradictions, right? Whereas in the book of Matthew and Mark, it says that the curtain of the temple, right, rips after. Let me go to that. So I'll start with the book of Matthew, and I believe it is Matthew 25, which was when our Lord, which was okay, Matthew 25, Matthew 27, when our Lord Yahushua was crucified. So let me see if I can find that. I see it right here. So this is the book of Matthew 27, verse 50. Yahushua, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost, and behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain, from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. Right. So after Elijah Yahushua was giving up the ghost, right, and after he had gone to the spirit world, then the Matthew records that the curtain in the temple, right, in the holy of holies, I think that's what they call it, basically inside the inner temple, where the priest goes and does the officiating of the sacrifice, is ripped in half, right? That veil was ripped. So let's go to the book of Mark and see what Mark had to say about that as well. Okay. So let's get that. Let's go to that. So let's see. Okay, he meant Luke. Okay, he said Luke because I read the book of Mark. So this is the book of Mark 15, verse 37. And Yahushua cried with a loud voice and gave up the ghost, and the veil of the temple was rent in twain, from the top to the bottom. So the same thing that Matthew had said as well. So let's go to the book of Luke, right? So that should be Luke 23, and see what the book of Luke has to say about that. So let's see in the crucifixion. So let's see. Here it is. So this is the book of Luke 23, verse 44. And it was about the 6th hour, and there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. And when Yahushua had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. Right. And you see that, if you read the book of Matthew and Mark, it says that after Lord Yahushua had died, right? Well, of course, they all go into the same thing, okay? How the veil of the temple was actually ripped in half from top to bottom. But in the book of Matthew and Mark, right? I'm just trying to get everything together so you can actually understand it. It says that it was ripped after Lord Yahushua had given up the ghost. But here in the book of Luke, it says that it was ripped. It didn't actually say before. Okay, let's just make that clear. And even in the book of Matthew and Mark, it didn't say after, but rather it was giving an account of what happened. So the order was right. Elijah Yahushua had given up the ghost, and then the temple curtain ripped, and then here it says that the sun was darkened and the veil of the temple ripped. And when our Lord Yahushua cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. Right. So that means that this whole thing happened at the exact same time period. Okay. So our Lord Yahushua, he gave up the ghost, and then the veil of the temple ripped. And this is the level of contradictions that the anti-Hamashiach are using to try to discredit the scriptures now, because they are thinking, because even he said that, don't you think this is a big deal? And you ask anybody, you ask anybody if anybody in this truth, and if they think this is a big deal, it's like, so what, right? Matthew and Mark both said the same thing. Luke apparently said something different, right? Even though we don't know the exact order of the events, because first and foremost, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they weren't there when it happened, so they're getting the account from somebody else. And you know how these things go, when you're trying to remember a story, right? Everybody that was there saw it from different angles, so they are seeing different things, and they're writing different things, and there are so many factors that you have to take in before you can even accept this as a contradiction. Let's go back, if you ask him to go into the Septuagint and see if the Septuagint says the same thing, right? Whether this is a translation thing where if you go to the original text in the book of Luke, that Luke gave the same story as Matthew and Mark. Now what he wrote that the tearing of the veil of the temple happened after our Lord Yahushua. Was written. It's not even that it happened; it was written after. Okay, so because whether it actually happened before or after our Lord Yahushua give up the ghost, you don't even know. But rather, it was written after it happened, because most likely it happened at the same time. But there are so many factors to take in here before you can even safely call this is a contradiction. But this is the thing that these atheists do. They'll come with the scriptures up and down and look for something that doesn't match, a testimony that doesn't match in the scriptures, right? Like, take for example, I believe it's either in the book of Matthew or the book of John, right, where it records the first miracle Allah Yahweh did. If you go into all the Gospels, the first miracle Allah Yahweh did, I think in the book of John it says that he turned water to wine at the wedding, right? But in like Luke and Mark, it doesn't go into that. Let me see if I can find that precept. Try to see if I can find that precept. Okay, yeah, it is. And this is what I'm talking about right here. Let me see if I can cross-reference it. Not seeing anything like that. So the book of John, the second chapter, and this is where, okay, hold on. Yeah, this is where Allah Yahweh turned the water into wine. This is the first miracle that the Apostle John, records that Allah Yahweh performed. But in other Gospels, right, if you go into the first miracle Allah Yahweh performed, you see that there are different accounts of it. If you go into the book of Luke, it actually gives you a story of Allah Yahweh when he was still a young lad. In other words, when he was 12 years old. But the other Gospels don't give you that same story. Almost as if these are different accounts written by different men and they are remembering it differently, right? And that shows you the level of contradictions that this guy is bringing up right here. Basic things that can be attacked from so many angles that you can't even call it concrete. If you brought this up as a contradiction in any court of law or in any official, even by ESOS standards, this doesn't count as a contradiction. But you see, because these people out here are grasping at straws because they have nothing else to say against the scriptures. They can't say the Most High is not real because your science has not yet confirmed, your pseudoscience has not yet confirmed that. And your pseudoscience proves more and more every day that they have to be a god, right? Because the whole framework of this universe is pointing towards intelligent design. And you atheists can't deny that there is not enough randomness in this universe for it to not have been designed on purpose to be this way. Okay, the fact that you have science, feels like theoretical physics just to fill this, just to try and create different imaginary ideas in order to fill the space for how this universe could have been made without the Most High, shows you just how far Esau is willing to go first and foremost in order to push this madness that there is no God and this universe was created that this universe was created without a God, because that's what theoretical physics is. When they start talking about how there are alternate universes, dark matter, black matter, and so on and so forth. That's just showing you how far Esau is willing to go in order to remove the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, from the equation, right? And then, and I always say this, man. Why are these anti-Christians that they're so staunchly against the scriptures? Because if you claim that you don't believe in the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, let's get that precept, because as it's written, the fool seeth in his heart. The fool saith in his heart, there is no God. Let me get that. So this is the book of Psalms 14 verse 1. To the chief musician, a psalm of David. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no power. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. Right, let me get this comment right here. The top comments. Which is this one right here. The top comment from 4 days ago. Dinesh is one of the most intellectually dishonest people I've ever heard, other than Peterson. So he's talking about Jordan Peterson, which of course, I don't doubt that, this is a Christ, this is our Wakitaki Christians, these are Wakitaki Christians we're talking about. So you already know. But this individual as well, Alex O'Connor, he's also included in the intellectual dishonesty. Because first and foremost, he's not asking these questions or pointing these things out of a morbid curiosity to know exactly what the answers are, but rather he's doing it as a gotcha, how to prove that, oh, there is a contradiction in the scriptures. And because there is a contradiction in the scriptures, even though you say that the scriptures are perfect and entire, right? And there is nothing to be omitted with this book, right? Isaiah 34, verse 16. That this proves that the scriptures are false, even though these aren't contradictions. These are quite literally, so many different ways in which these are quite literally, there are so many different things that you can even call it, whether it's a grammatical error, an error in translation, right? Or just a regular, or just an account, or just an account, a different perspective. Okay, that's basically what all this boils down to. You can't call this an actual contradiction. Okay, two different writers said the same thing, that this is what happened, and then one said something different, right? Showing you that this is something that was written by multiple, almost like it's something that was written by multiple people that heard the story from, that heard the story from different I don't want to say different sources, because how these unbelievers are now. Even though, like I said, Matthew, Mark, and Luke were all scribes for the apostles, and they wrote down the gospel from one of the apostles, giving them the account of the things that happened, right? And the only person that was actually an actual eyewitness that saw what happened was the apostle John. And if you go into the book of Matthew, right, I think it should be. Okay, I guess it's not there. But let me do this instead. Go see Go and type in. You can do it for all the Gospels. Who wrote the book of Matthew? Just to confirm that what I'm saying is the truth, because I know that. Because I think about, because, and this is because if I remember correctly, Matthew was one of the 12, right? He was a tax collector, right? So let's get this. And of course, just be warned that we are going to be reading Esau's answer to that question. But let's read this. Who wrote the book of Matthew? Who was the author of Matthew? The eagerly awaited event foretold in the Old Testament was the arrival of the Messiah. The Gospels depicted the significant occurrence, portraying Yahushua as the Messiah, a carpenter's son. Oh, let me just go down. Let me just go down. Okay. The first gospel narrative in the New Testament canon is the book of Matthew, though many scholars have concluded that Mark was the first gospel to be written. Matthew presents Yahushua as the fulfillment of both the law and the prophets in the Old Testament, and the commentators agree that it is the most Jewish gospel of the four accounts. There is no explicit mention of an author in the text of Matthew. However, Christian tradition attributes the gospel to Matthew, who was also known as Levi, a former tax collector and disciple of Yahushua, right? So it's like about that. I forgot that Matthew was actually one of the 12 disciples, and one of the 12 disciples which were turned apostles. So let me go to this. The same book of Matthew, the 10th chapter. So this is the book of Matthew 10, verse 9, and it reads, "And as Yahushua passed forth from thence, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at..." Okay, so this is 9. Matthew 9, verse 9. This is the spirit right here. Because I forgot that Matthew was actually one of the disciples of our Lord Yahushua. This is the spirit right here. Matthew 9, verse 9. "And as Yahushua passed forth from thence, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the receipt of custom, and he saith unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him." So now, Matthew 10, verse 1. "And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: the first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the publican, James the son of Alphaeus and Labius, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Right, so these are the 12 apostles. Okay, so now let's go back to that. Now, if you go to the book of Mark and the book of Luke as well, to give you the same, and let's get that as well. Who wrote the book of Luke? And let's see the answer that he gets here, right? The book of Luke. So you have read the book of Luke. Luke, the third book in the New Testament canon, was written by Luke, a physician and companion of Paul, on some of his journeys, often referred to as the Gospel of Mercy. The book portrays Yahushua as showing compassion towards the marginalized, poor, and outcast. In Luke's Gospel, Yahushua is presented as the Savior of all people, not exclusively the Jews, suggesting that the author is a Gentile, which of course is going off, right? Because even if you go into the book of Luke, it also gives you the same narrative as all the other gospels, which is that our Lord Yahushua came for his people, came for his people, which are the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. Okay, so now the book of Mark, and this is just showing you the authorship of all the different gospels, and showing you that, and even these Christians even know that all these gospels are written from the perspective of different people, right? So this is the book of Mark. The book of Mark was written by John Mark, is considered the earliest gospel by the majority of scholars and commentators, though some scholars argue for Matthew's priority in the New Testament canon. Mark is placed after Matthew and offers a distinct perspective on Yahushua. In contrast to Matthew's Jewish-centric approach, Mark is targeted to a non-Jewish audience. It presents facts concisely, provides explanations for Jewish customs and traditions unnecessary for Jewish readers. Right, so the gospel were written by Mark, okay? Or I should say John Mark. So you know who the different individuals that write these gospels are. So Matthew, a disciple of our Lord Yahushua. Luke was a understudy for the apostle Paul. Mark, and a they don't really give a what's that I'm looking for, yeah, an identity towards who Mark was. And of course the book of John was written by John the Revelator, which was the apostle of our Lord Yahushua, the one whom the Lord loved, right? Yeah, that's an inside joke right there. But back to what I was saying, different accounts, and that's just basically it. There are no contradictions in the scriptures, and just remember that if somebody that all these people that you see out here talking about debating the scriptures and debating the validity of the scriptures or anything in the scriptures are doing so in bad faith, because they're not doing it in order to edify or in order to understand, right, or in order to show that either what they are saying is the truth or what they are debating against is false, but rather it's an attempt to have a gotcha moment on somebody else and to show your own moral and not morals, like about mental superiority. So with that, I'll end the video right there. Once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High Yahweh Basham Yahweh Basham Kodash Wa Abad Babal Shalom.